sure I can think of something.
Well, you don't have to. This isn't a challenge.
No, he's got nothing.
I got nothing.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Snark Squad Pod, the media podcast where we prefer hyper-literal visions. My name is Marinés.
I'm Nicole Sweeney.
And today we have two guests joining us, Rachel and Sam, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Sam.
Yeah, together we do Real Love, a podcast about two people in love who love talking about movies.
Mm-hmm. And every week we each pick a movie and we make the other person watch it and then we talk about it.
And it's very cute and you should definitely listen to it.
Yes, you should.
Thank you.
Also, thank you.
Also listen to it.
Yeah.
And so now you know that we brought you on here to be very cute. So you have a high standard to live up to.
Oh, no.
Perfect. No, I can do that.
I mean, yes,
No,
I'm cute.
That's nothing for me.
Today we're going to be talking about the recently released Ocean's 8, starring a bunch of people you definitely know. And I am going to throw it back to Rachel and or Sam, who are going to give us the plot synopsis.
Oh boy. All right. Here we go. Okay. Debbie Ocean, younger sister of the apparently deceased master thief Danny Ocean, is released from a 5-year stint in prison. During her time in prison, she claims to have come up with the perfect heist. She reconnects with her partner in crime, Lou, and recruits jeweler Amita, fencer Tammy, not fencer, fence, like criminal fence selling stuff, Tammy. She can maybe also fence, I don't know. Pickpocket Constance, hacker Nineball, and famous designer Rose Wheel into her scheme to steal a $150 million necklace from the Met Gala. The designer Rose makes a dress for the famous actress Daphne Kluger, who and insists on using the necklace. Then at the gala, an intricate series of events allows the team to swap the necklace for a fake. The plan goes off almost perfectly. After the switch is discovered, an insurance investigator almost catches them until Daphne, who is on to them the whole time, helps them plant evidence on Debbie's ex-lover, Claude, who, not coincidentally, is the person who got Debbie put in jail via a sloppy insurance scam they were pulling together. Framing Claude involved using all the money from the last heist, or from the $150 million necklace heist, and that seemingly leaves the team with nothing, but then Debbie, Lou, and Amita reveal that there was a heist hidden within the heist, wherein while the necklace was missing, they brought in a member from the old Ocean's 11 movie, the amazing Yin, who's a contortionist, and together they stole like every other jewel in the Met, and then they all have money and they're all happy.
Yay!
I want money. I want to be happy.
Well, become a thief. It looks very easy.
It's shockingly simple.
Yeah, there's nothing to it. You just got to be confident. And then even when people catch you, all you have to do is be like, yeah, so what? I did it. Pretty much.
Yeah, you just have to have friends in the right places. Mm-hmm. Like the insurance fraud, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
all you need.
Okay, I'll get working on that. This is one of the weeks where I feel like it is a very pure episode in that I literally have no idea what the answer to this question is going to be from any of you. So let's start where we always like to start, and I will ask, starting with Nicole, did you enjoy this movie?
I really did. It was just like a big, fun, fluffy movie. I think there's a lot to talk about in terms of how it situates itself vis-a-vis the other Ocean's movies. But in general, like its whole purpose is to say, here's a bunch of people you know, and you're going to watch them go do like things that they're good at, basically. Like they're just going to have fun, and you will also have fun because you're watching them have fun. And I feel like it delivered on its very basic premise. So yes, I enjoyed this movie.
Rachel?
I definitely enjoyed this movie. I actually love this movie. I'm a huge fan of the Soderbergh Ocean's movies. And so I kind of came into this like, not with high expectations, but just like expectations. Like, all right, here's an all lady team. I'm ready for this kind of thing. And yeah, I think I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Sam.
It's me now. Okay. Yeah, I really liked it. It's not every day that you go see a movie that you know is going to be replayed on basic cable for all of humankind. And that's what this movie was. It was so easy to watch. It's just like flop on your couch when it's on at any point in the movie and you can just watch it. So it wasn't like the best movie ever made, but it was super fun to watch. Oh, you think it maybe was the best movie ever made? But it was super fun to watch. What did you think of it?
So I make videos on YouTube. They're critical book reviews a lot of the time. And a lot of the time I get a lot of very angry people come to my videos because I don't like their favorite books. And their favorite line to tell me basically or ask me is, do you enjoy anything? And I feel like slowly I'm gaining that reputation on the podcast as well as like, do I enjoy anything? I mean, it was fine. It was enjoyable, I guess. But it also wasn't great. It wasn't amazing by any stretch. Like I had a good time, but I think it is like easily forgettable. I enjoyed everybody that was in the movie, but it wasn't necessarily a very good movie. So, I mean, yeah, it was fine. I'm fine with it.
I think one of my first questions is, do you enjoy the other Ocean's movies?
Okay, so the other thing I'm gaining a reputation for probably on this podcast is being forced to watch things I have no context for, and I have never seen an Ocean's movie in my life.
I never have either.
Yes, you have.
So
I've seen bits and pieces.
That's not true.
Okay, whatever.
It is definitely true in my case. I've never seen an Ocean's movie.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Mm-hmm. I am closer to Rachel's background, which is like I've seen all of the George Clooney Ocean's movies, and I thoroughly enjoyed those. I don't know that I would describe myself as like a diehard fan of them. I was excited about this more for like the group of actresses that are in it, but I think it's interesting, but not at all surprising to me that you didn't really enjoy this movie because like there isn't a lot there. Mm-hmm. And so I understand why this is not your cup of tea. Like I didn't go into this expecting you to be like, yeah, I loved this movie, if I'm being perfectly honest.
I enjoyed it just fine. I'm not saying it wasn't enjoyable. I saw this movie by myself, like on a Sunday afternoon. There was a cute old lady next to me. It was fine. Like, it was fine. But it's just not, it's not a good movie. It's not like a great movie. It was fine, is all I'm saying.
No, I totally agree with that. I don't think it was a great movie, but it was fun to watch.
Right.
I think it's
maybe more memorable.
I think it borders on the line of being a great movie just because well, I feel like it was very aware of itself, and like they're bringing in the context of knowing some of the other Ocean's movies that are all male casts. I think that it took a lot of that and kind of just like shoved it in a can and like threw it in the trash kind of thing. So I think that it just like there are some really smart and clever parts that kind of changes the way that people can view movies with an all-female cast that other movies don't do. So I think that like this movie, even though it's kind of like a dumb concept or like a dumb movie, it still, I think it kind of like breaks a lot of boundaries that other all female casts try to do but don't.
I also think that this question of greatness is like, obviously it is so inherently subjective. And I also think that you have to ask, like, fairly assess it for what it is actually trying to do. Like, I don't think that it is, I think that it is simple by design. The whole thing is intentionally winking at the audience at every turn. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. And so like that to me, I think it did everything that it was trying to do very well. And so, again, I'm not surprised that that's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but I'm also reluctant to disparage the movie on the grounds that it wasn't trying to do anything. It wasn't trying to do something to have this very intricate plot. Like, that's not, I don't know. That's not what it was setting out to do.
I think one of the best things that it did was that it wasn't trying to reinvent the wheel, and then it was leaning into a lot of these like very well-worn, like almost tropes or cliches that we know about a heist movie. And I enjoyed the way that it was leaning into those things and almost, making you laugh along with those things. It wasn't any of that kind of left me underwhelmed. It was other aspects of the movie that I think were just like, we'll leave it being fun for the moment, but not necessarily memorable for the long haul. But I will say that I enjoyed a lot of those things. And in fact, I was taking notes in the movie theater like a dork. And a lot of them were just like tropes that I saw that were just so funny in context. Like, it was like the janitor, like waxing the floor, who's never freaking paying attention. So that's like number one. You got to find a janitor who's not paying attention so you can sneak past him and get in the building. But there were such like key and clever moments that way that I thought they were really leaning into with this movie, and that were all elevated in my opinion because it was an all-female cast. Like, we've had to watch the same exact thing a million times with all male cast. Like, let us have this moment. I totally get that, and I was there for that portion of it as well.
So speaking of the fact that it is an all-female cast and sort of like elevating it on those grounds, I think it is interesting that so the Ocean's franchise, like dating back to even the original sort of Rat Pack one, the entire point of the original movie was, look, we're going to get all these people together in one movie. Mm-hmm. I think the original movie, and being with those people being set in Vegas, had sort of an additional layer of context that is no longer, doesn't apply starting with the George Clooney movies. But like in general, like that's the whole premise. I think it is very interesting that they managed to sort of like take that up a notch further by virtue of setting it at the Met Gala. I thought that was like a very clever and fun thing to do, because again, the whole point is, look how many famous people we can bring into this movie. And the fact that like I wonder what that was like on set to have all of these very famous people be extras. Like, they were extras.
Right.
Like, there
Kim
are
Kardashian
so many
doesn't
people.
even get a line.
She's just in the background.
Is literally an extra in this movie, and like that is wild. Just that whole like premise and concept, I thought was very fun and interesting. There are some ways in which they use the Met Gala that are like, okay. Somebody on Twitter was complaining about the fact that Anne Hathaway's character was doing her own makeup, which like obviously no. But in general, I thought that was a very clever and fun choice.
Yeah, and I think that is kind of one of the reasons why like it was very self-conscious about itself. Like, it picked the Met Gala, and like one of the hugest people who like walks down the runway of the Met Gala is Rihanna, and she was basically like wearing jeans in the whole movie. And like little things like that I loved. And like the fact that they had Helen Bonham Carter play the designer, when for like a huge part of her life, of her walking down the red carpet, she would say, like, she would tell reporters like, oh, I don't care who I'm wearing, like,
right.
And then like now she's kind of like this goth fashion icon, and like for her to be picked as the character of the fashion designer, I thought was really clever. And like, I think like the little things that they say, like things that people want a all-female movie to be like, they kind of like took that and not made fun of it, but like said like, well, you want it to be this, but it can also be this. Like when Sandra Bullock was like looking in the mirror and she was doing like putting on her lipstick, and she said, don't do it for me, don't do it for them, do it for that little girl who dreams of being a criminal, kind of thing. Like that line in itself just like made my day. Because like not every like I feel like not every female story is just like because one woman wants to be the president or something like that.
Right.
So I think that, and like little things like that is part of the reason why I really liked it and why I thought it was really smart. And like I watched it without the sense in my mind like, oh, this is an all-female cast and it's like a remake and this and that. Like I think it was just like a movie, and like I didn't have to think about the fact that it was an all-female cast.
I think one of we talked about her a little bit already, but one of my favorite performances and characters was Anne Hathaway's actress or model. And I think part of the reason why is that Hollywood loves to make fun of itself. And I think there was we talked about this when we were talking about the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and how, or when things are self-referential, or when like writers are writing about being writers, or actors are making fun of like models and actors, and that kind of thing. Like they're almost in their element. And I think that was the best self-referential humor in the entire movie, was from all of her mannerisms, the way that she talked, and even like her French tip manicure.
I noticed
that. Cracking up the entire time at like the little like in jokes that way. And I just thought that hers was probably my favorite performance.
Sam doesn't know
guys,
what
what's a French tip manicure. Why is it funny, I guess?
I don't know how to explain that.
I can look it up.
Well, I mean, the manicure is like, the white tips.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just like kind of like a hashtag basic.
Yeah.
It was just like a little like costuming detail that I thought was really funny.
Yeah.
On the whole, I totally agree that Anne Hathaway's performance was the best. She was the character that I wanted more of. I think in general, like because you had so many people smashed into it, one sort of pitfall is that I could have done with more of all of these characters, but hers especially. I think it's also interesting on the level of it's additionally self-referential because it is Anne Hathaway in this role, because Anne Hathaway has that sort of complicated relationship. There was that hot minute where the internet really hated her for being like, I was totally in this camp. Well, okay, here's the thing. The Anne Hathaway, I don't know if hate is too strong a word, but my brief dislike of Anne Hathaway was that it felt so disingenuous. She felt like she was putting on this very disingenuous earnestness. I think that like criticizing her for that to the degree to which everybody did, like that sort of pile-on over what is quite frankly like it's a very silly and like petty small grievance, and so I think the idea of having her play this character who is just putting on this very disingenuous and like very over the top performance of self because celebrity culture was just very clever and great, and yeah, she was wonderful.
And I love her for doing it, honestly.
Yes.
I mean, it was great. And I think she definitely falls into the category of actor that is like a Kristen Stewart, where it was like cool to hate her for a moment, and then everybody turned around and was like, wait a second. Like,
wow, she's a complicated human being.
Yeah, and I also liked how like they did that juxtaposition between when she walked into their like thief lair at the end, and she's wearing like that bomber jacket and like all black pants and stuff. I thought was kind of interesting because it's like, well, here the veil has been removed. Here's who she really is, kind of thing. And I thought that was pretty interesting as well.
Oh, I took that as her dressing the part of criminal. She's now saying, okay,
it was her Catwoman.
That makes sense.
Like she walked in there like, I'm going to be part of the crew now. Like very, very obviously like, I don't have friends. Please be my friend. So,
I don't have friends, and book clubs are the worst.
Yes.
I died. So good.
I think maybe my biggest grievance is something that Nicole already touched on, and it was that I probably wanted more time with all of these characters, and I I felt that all of the characterizations were probably a little weak. It was the weakest part of the movie for me, for sure. And it was just it was a lot going on, with the whole heist thing. And you just had so much talent that it was almost to a detriment. Like we could have spent so much more time with any of these characters and it would have been amazing. And I think probably on the other end of the spectrum for me was Cate Blanchett's character, which I love. Like I wanted so much more of, and I just felt like she was underutilized probably to the worst degree.
I thought she was definitely my favorite character too. I said when the movie was over that now I kind of get why people like Cate Blanchett. I didn't quite understand before this movie, I don't think, but I wasn't quite sure what they were trying to do with her, I guess. Mm-hmm. When she was riding away on the motorcycle at the end, I was like, I don't feel like this is that character. That's so corny for her, who's like so cool. I guess it just was something I didn't quite latch on to. But I felt like Mindy Kaling's character maybe got the shortest shrift. Like she almost was a main character of the movie, and I feel like Mindy keeps getting these roles kind of like in A Wrinkle in Time, where she's publicized as being in it very heavily, but then she ends up not getting very much to do, which is kind of disappointing.
If you've seen the trailer, you've actually seen all of her scenes.
Yeah, like every
Absolutely,
line she has.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and Awkwafina. More of her too.
Yes, yeah. They had that total throwaway scene of just Awkwafina and Mindy Kaling like learning how to use Tinder. It was so out of place. It was completely out of place, and I 100% like did not care because it was just like a charming 20 seconds of them on Tinder. I had no idea why that was there. Like none whatsoever.
It serves no purpose. It does not belong in this movie
at all.
But it's cute.
And it gives them like 5.
It's the part of the building the team montage where they all start to bond, and there should have been more of those moments, I guess.
Right.
Yes.
It was like 5 of their combined like 10 speaking lines, but it was fine.
I think it was supposed to mirror the like
her happy ending.
Like Awkwafina's weird scene where she comes up to Sandra Bullock and is like, can I get a Metro card or something? Because like I think it was supposed to be like the in-between scenes for the like smaller characters that in a different movie, I guess would have woven in a little bit more.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then there was Sarah Paulson as Tammy. She was a weird character, I thought, just because like I didn't quite understand what she did.
She ended up being like the character who did everything that they couldn't didn't have a exact role for other people to do. She joined the catering company.
She's the basic lady.
Yeah, she was like the lady who didn't have any morals, who would like do the.
She was like capable white woman, basically.
But then she got like in such a high position in that whatever event company that was so quickly.
She said the Met Gala wrong.
Yeah.
Gala.
I would have found that suspicious.
Yeah. My other Cate Blanchett related grievance was the dynamic between Lou and Debbie. I feel like on the one hand, I'm down for the idea of this movie that's just like a heist movie and also like female friendship type movie. Like the Debbie and Lou's friendship is really central. But I feel like they're at a couple key moments cross the line into being like implying that they're probably dating without ever actually saying it. I don't know. Like their dynamic straddled this line that made me uncomfortable because it felt like kind of queerbaity. Like either you needed to find a way to dial back a couple of those moments or just like fucking say that they're dating. Like, I don't know. Parts of their dynamic bothered me.
What parts specifically?
Well, there's like one part where they say that they were going through a rough patch or something, and it's very, very unclear if she means in their relationship or in their like criminal relationship or both. I got the same feeling that you did, where it was just kind of felt cheap a little bit.
I didn't get that feeling, but
then
mainly,
Rachel, I talked to Rachel and she didn't get that.
I didn't really get it, and I don't know if it's just because I just didn't pick up on those things, but I almost feel like, because like in the other Ocean's movies, the relationship between Danny and the Brad Pitt character is like really close as well, and like very bromancy in a sense. So I almost felt like, why couldn't it be a sister mancy?
A lady bromance.
Lady bromance. In the sense that like sometimes women are just so close to where it does seem like they are together, but when they look back on their relationships, it does seem like they're like soulmates, but in a non-romantic way.
I totally get what you're saying, and I agree that I would have been totally okay with this being just about female friendships, which will lead into another one of my gripes about the movie. But I agree with Nicole and Sam in that I totally had that on my list to mention as well, because it felt very queerbaity at points to me. I think it was more than just being like, oh, look at us, we're close, we're friends. There were like specific moments that, I don't know, just towed the line and like tipped over the line. I think one of them is when they're eating together and kind of sharing that meal that felt very relationship-y. And then there was a shared moment, like I think soon after the heist, after she rides away on the motorcycle, where they're standing across from the street from each other and like giving each other like a look that was like super loaded and like sexually charged almost. And I was like, just the fact that I wasn't sure what they were leaning towards left a bad taste in my mouth.
Yes.
In that aspect.
Yes. I think that is what I'm getting at. Is that like, I feel like I wish it had been more clear.
Yeah. There was another part that struck me too, was when they were talking about Sandra Bullock's character being in prison, and she was like, you don't know what it was like. I was in there for 5 years. And then Cate Blanchett looks sad. So maybe I thought they were implying some kind of like an unrequited thing, possibly. But I don't know. I couldn't tell.
You said there was another gripe that you were going to get to off of this. So what was it?
I just was not totally sold with having this all female cast and having this like female fronted high story take a turn for being a revenge plot because of a jilted lover kind of thing. I thought it was unnecessary to what was happening. I thought that it fell into a trope that as much as this was exploring different tropes that were about heist movies, I thought that was more a trope about women and that I don't feel like the story needed that part of it where it was just Debbie Ocean getting back at her ex-boyfriend for throwing her in jail. I get why she wanted to do it. I just felt like it was a little out of place in the story, and I would have been okay without it, especially because of what it says about like, you know, jilted women and all of that kind of stuff. So that was just my like portion of that plot.
I think that's fair, though. I think the fact that it is heist specific makes it not bother me in that way. Like the fact that it's not her getting back at him for dumping her, you know what I mean? Like the fact that it was actually specific to being a criminal.
Yeah.
Like that is the center of her revenge plot. I totally agree, and I hear what you're saying in terms of the idea of centering this female film on a revenge plot in that way was like kind of unnecessary, but I'm willing to give it a pass because it is so wrapped up in the like crime component of the movie.
Yeah, and if you like pair it up to like the other Ocean's movies, a lot of times, so I knew that at one point there would be
a heist within a heist.
No, in the other movies, there's always something that Danny is holding back from the rest of the group, and I knew at one point it would be like, what is Sandra Bullock or Debbie holding back from the rest of the group? And in the Ocean's movies, they find out like, oh, you're doing this because of a girl, and then they all get mad.
Okay.
But in this movie, I thought it was interesting because they're like, oh, so you're trying to get back at this guy, all right, kind of thing. And it's like,
they all seemed very cool with it when at the end she was like, I used all of our money to frame him, for like that instant. But before she told them that she stole all the other jewels, they were just like, oh, well, okay, I'm glad he's in jail.
Yeah, and I think that is kind of why I'm like, I didn't really care, because it was like, here's this lady who knows what she wants she wants to do, and she's been planning this for 5 years, and she got this team of people who were like, all right, I just want the money and I'm okay with that. And I feel like in another all-woman movie, it would have like pitted them against each other. And I feel like that was kind of like a criticism of this movie when it was first announced, that a lot of people would be like, all female cast, that's dumb, they would just get into fights all the time kind of thing. And I feel like there wasn't any of that. And I thought that was kind of refreshing.
It is interesting, too, that you mentioned the George Clooney Ocean's movies as well, because I think, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the Ocean's 11 sort of like the reveal is basically that the casino owner that George Clooney has chosen to target for the heist, like the real reason he's going after this guy is because Julia Roberts, his ex, is with this guy, and he like wants to take him down basically as a like jealous ex-boyfriend, right? Like that's basically the sort of sub thing in there. So I think there's a layer, there's a level in which it's related. I think we've talked about this before in terms of when you make these kinds of adjustments. What were we talking? Atomic Blonde. When we were talking about Atomic Blonde, the idea of like gender bending the French spy character from the graphic novel, that like then you introduced. Like you cool that you added this queer representation, but then you also introduced like the bury your gays thing as a result of that, and like none of these things are all sort of interlocking and whatnot. So like this is not giving it a pass, but I think it is the revenge plot is a less terrible way than a complete mirroring, I suppose, because like if you fully mirror it, then you say that like Debbie's entire motive is to get back at some lady who is dating her ex, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. Like, yeah, could have been worse. That's not at all a defense to say, oh, it could have been worse. But I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that.
I think what it is like in like the other Ocean's movies, it's like that. In the first one, at least, it's such a primary goal, but in this one, it's in a way, it sounds like it was like a tertiary goal, like something that she came up with like later in her planning, right? Because it wasn't something that we expected until like halfway through the movie.
For her to be getting revenge on him?
Yeah,
I feel like it was pretty obvious.
Well, I think that it was like they wanted the money.
She threatened to shiv him.
Yeah. Which was pretty great. But I think that like it takes maybe like the idea of a woman scorned kind of thing, and then just like says, yeah, so like sometimes we just want to put you in jail because you put us in jail.
The classic tale.
Classic tale of ladies just wanting to put men in jail.
Put you in jail. Yeah.
for
I think
us in jail.
You know what? I think you just changed my mind.
Well, I think also it wasn't like he wasn't like going to jail because he got framed. He framed her when he was also doing illegal things. So he should have gone to jail in the first place.
Yeah, I guess so.
So, yes.
This is probably a moment where having the context of other Ocean's movies would have helped. And I think probably another thing was like, you were like, oh yeah, the heist within a heist. Like, duh. Yeah, not duh for me necessarily. And I think that through no fault of the movie, this is just not a device that I enjoy, is whenever there's a story and you're following it along and any part of the resolution deals with, but while you weren't looking, this other stuff happened. I cannot abide it.
Better. I think it could have added another scene with Mindy or something that would have set that ending up better.
And then to have like no context of the other movies, and you bring the contortionist in, I had no clue who that person is, and now it's like, Yeah, no clue. Don't care. And then I'm like, but also this is like an all-female thing. And then to have like the final super thing be like a guy, I'm like, oh, come on. I'm here for the ladies. Like, what's going on? So there was a bunch of that like ending reveal where it was like, ah ha ha, a heist within a heist. And I was just like, boo. But that was probably more my issue with that particular storytelling device, and it could have been handled a little better, but I wasn't a fan of that in particular.
I don't think that like. See, I was actually surprised at like the second heist, so I don't think that you needed a context of the other movies, because I knew based off of the trailers that Daphne, or Anne Hathaway's character, would at the end like be in on it somehow, but I didn't, and so like I thought that
she's the eighth. They're only seven,
and so I didn't like. I knew that would happen, and I thought that would be the twist in the end. But then when they're like, "Well, we stole more diamonds," like that actually surprised me.
Yeah, I was really confused about that the whole time. Were they counting her as the eighth one even before they knew that she knew what was going on?
Well, yeah, because when Lou asks Debbie at the very beginning, when they're talking about what would be needed to pull this job off, Lou says something about you'd need like 20 people or whatever, some high number of people, and Debbie says 7, that she'd only need 7 people.
Oh, okay.
And yeah.
I guess in my head she said 8 because of the movie.
Because of the movie title.
She said 7, but I was like, is that like 7 including her or 7 plus her? Like, like I was literally thinking like, I don't understand what the 7, the makeup is. So either Ocean's 8, the title, is a spoiler or it's not. I'm not sure.
Well, they do it in the trailer, so, or like she is shown in the trailer riding the train with them
at the end. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so that would be weird if they just happened to be riding the train. Or would it?
Yeah, you just always, hang out on the subway with people that you rob. It's fine. It's like casual.
I feel like very little time has been spent actually talking about Sandra Bullock, even though she was allegedly the lead of the movie.
The titular character.
Yeah. I guess she was just like the boring one.
Well, she was there to deliver the every girl wants to be a criminal line.
Oh, right. She did do that. Okay. That was cool.
That was the only thing she needed to do.
Yeah.
I mean,
she also existed to be, just so charming and endearing. I mean, like, this whole premise is that you have to root for people doing crime. So, like, you need someone who has the cultural cachet of Sandra Bullock, who is just widely beloved. And you're like, oh yeah, of course I'm rooting for Sandra Bullock. Sure, I want her to have a very successful crime. Do good crime, Sandra Bullock.
I think the best thing that they did was show that little montage of her getting out of jail, and she I love this whole entire thing because it took advantage of like that, of her being like in this evening gown, just acting the part of like an entitled woman marching into the store and basically like stealing a bunch of cosmetics by demanding to return them, and then like being like, fine, I'll keep them, and just walking out, and she gets the free hotel, and like the entire time like you are watching this and recognizing that it is really crappy, but it's hilarious. Yeah, it's hilarious. It's amazing, and it works because she's like playing. She's leaning into all of these like perceptions of like people we have seen and met. So I just love that entire first sequence, and I think it did a lot winning you over to her character, which was great because I think the rest of the movie didn't do a ton with her or any of the characters really like showing you much to hold on to. For the most part, I think we're holding on to a lot of the introductions and a lot into who the actors are who are playing the characters. Like, you're there because you love those people. The movie is not doing a ton to sell them to you outside of like a few key moments. So I felt Debbie was there for me too, like where it was like, yeah, you know, you're doing the good thieving, congratulations. But there wasn't a ton else outside of like maybe the criminal 8-year-old line and like that beginning sequence where I was like, aha, this is a character that I can really like latch onto.
I really liked that bit of her getting out of prison too, because it reminded me of Cookie's introduction on Empire as well. I mean, not so much with the sort of everything that she does after she leaves, but just the whole idea of like her walking out of prison in her fancy clothes that she was arrested in was delightful and good.
One part where I got super secondhand embarrassment was when they were trying to scan when Helena Bonham Carter got a lot of time in this movie, which I thought was a little bit weird. And when she was trying to scan the necklace with those glasses, I thought that whole part just went on too long and it was too like fake hacker stupid. And a lot of the hacking stuff I kind of felt the same way about. It was kind of just like, this is like early 2000s version of hacking. I do not believe this.
I can kind of get away, let them get away with that kind of thing, because I used to think that, like, you know how in shows they go enhance, and it's like, no, that's not how that works. But then I did like a holy fucking science on this, and about how facial recognition software can actually enhance things in ways that you don't think that they would do it, and like can figure out like numbers and letters based off of pixels and stuff, and based off of like very minimal amounts of pixels. And I was like, whoa, enhance really is like how it kind of looks like in the movies. So ever since then, I've just kind of been like, all right, like if it seems a little crazy, then maybe
someday it will be a thing.
Maybe there is like some weird technology that does it this way or something like that, and I'll let it slide kind of thing. So I didn't have too much of a problem with that.
I mean, the movie is depending on you just sitting there and going like la 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 while it's basically doing things like, yeah, hacking, like 3D printing, and you're just supposed to really accept, because it's not going to say anything more than that. It's not going to go very deep. And even a lot of like the perfect crime, it relied a lot on like very convenient and contrivancy things, but that's not what it wants you to look at. It's like hand waving you almost with like the amazing costumes, the talented actors, like the moments of humor. So it really did not care if you believed the hacking or not, or like whatever. That was like very secondary to the entire experience of watching these people luck themselves into a whole shitload of diamonds. So
yes. Speaking of the amazing costumes, we haven't discussed Cate Blanchett's suits. And I'm not really sure how much there is to discuss, except to say that my actual favorite character in this movie is Cate Blanchett's suits.
She even looked cool when she was wearing like the cook outfit at the end when she was
yeah.
God,
she just looked cool the whole time.
God damn her.
I think it was amazing too. And I think the best thing was like at the end, they all get to wear like their fancy outfits and their jewels as they're walking out of the event. And I mean, again, the entire purpose of that sequence is just to watch all of these beautiful, amazing women in fancy outfits and their jewels like strutting away. And then and Lou, Cate Blanchett, is not even at the event, but all of a sudden she's got a pantsuit on too. And you're like, yep. Don't care. Appreciate the pantsuit. Amazing.
Those bangs looked really itchy though. Were those poking in the eye all the time?
Yes, probably.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Mine do, at least.
Yeah.
Today you learned about bangs and French tips.
Rachel's had bangs forever. Hers just don't poke her, like they're not exactly eyeball level.
Yeah, I get them trimmed once a month for that exact reason. I don't know. I think after like thinking about this movie, like my ending thought would be I still enjoyed it and I loved it and I thought it was great. But like as I thought about it more, it's like, yes, this person, like I wanted more of these people. Yes, like it was just like a straightforward movie, but I kind of feel like maybe that's why it was a really good movie, because it was like just a normal movie and not trying to say much about like the fact that it's this huge women ensemble and it's kind of like normal. Does that make sense? Like it's supposed to be normal, and I think that's why it was kind of really good. It was really good because it was bad in a way.
I think a lot of times when there's like any kind of representation, people assume that there also has to be some sort of message along with it. Like, you know, if you have a female cast, or if you have a diversity of any kind, or if you have like, you know, Black women writing books, like what's the message there? There doesn't have to be a message. There can be representation for the sake of representation. And for every crappy heist movie with a white guy at the head, we can have like an all-female ensemble. So I totally get that. It was exactly what it set out to be. It didn't break any boundaries, but that doesn't make it any lesser just because it was that kind of movie. I think that if you go in there expecting anything that you wouldn't expect out of maybe male-led heist, like that's unfair to this movie, because it is what it is, and it delivered what I think it was aiming to deliver and what it promised. So I feel you on that aspect as well. On that note, that is the end of this week's episode. Thank you to Sam and Rachel for joining us, and we can now confirm that they are indeed very cute.
Oh,
thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much to you guys for listening. We would love to chat with you guys about this movie. We will have a post on SnarkSquad.com dedicated to this episode, so come talk with us. Also on that post, we will be mentioning all of the episodes coming up, so all of the media will be watching. So if you want to watch or read along with us, go check it out so you can see what's coming up next. You can also chat with us on the Discord about this episode and all of your feelings, so sign up for the newsletter to get access to that. You can also find us on our Twitter at Snark_squad. You can find me at My Name is Marines.
You can find me at Sweeney Says.
And you can find us at Real Love Pod on Twitter, and you can find Real Love, our podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts.
And definitely check it out. Thank you to Stefan Chin for this fancy outro music that is playing us out right now. And we will see you guys again next week. Bye.
Bye.